One of the downsides of separating the bundle into chunks is longer loading times between pages. Chunks require an additional request and download from the server. If the user clicks a link, we should provide a way to indicate that the chunk is currently downloading. Not providing visual cues might lead the user to believe that nothing is happening. That can result in them leaving the app. We don't want that to happen. Let's tackle this issue. One of the most effective and elegant solutions is adding a progress bar. In the resource section of this lecture, I provide a link to a library called NProgress. Clicking on the play buttons will trigger the progress bar to appear above. It'll slowly increment until you tell it to stop. Platforms like YouTube implement a similar behavior. Let's add this library in our app. Switch over to the command line. Stop the server. Next, run the following command. npm I NProgress. After installation, we can begin to use it in our app. As you may have noticed, the library is not an official Vue plugin. Luckily, it's not hard to integrate into our app. Here's how we're going to use it. If the user visits a new page, we'll want to load in the progress bar. Once the page has been loaded, we can remove the progress bar. This can be done by using navigation guards. Let's get started. In the includes directory, create a file called progressbar.js. We'll write the code for the progress bar in this file. At the top, import the NProgress module. This module will provide us with the functions for creating the progress bar. The next thing we'll need to do is grab the router object. The problem is that we don't have access to it. We won't be able to use navigation guards without it. We can get around this issue by passing the router object to a function inside the file. We're going to export an arrow function that accepts in the router object. Afterward, in the main.js file, import the progress bar file as progress bar. Below the import statements, we're going to call the progress bar function and pass in the router object. This will make the router object accessible in the progress bar file. Before we add the navigation guards, I'm going to import another file called nprogress.css. The NProgress library comes with styles for the progress bar. Importing the default styles is optional. We have the option of creating our own. I prefer to use the stylings that come with the module. They will fit nicely with our app's design. Switching back to the progress bar file, we're going to define the before each and after each navigation guard functions. The before each guard is called before the route begins to load the component. This is a guard we've used before. It's perfectly fine to call it again. We're allowed to define the same guards multiple times. This makes it easier to separate things. Before every route, we want to initialize the progress bar. Pass in an arrow function that accepts in the to, from, and next arguments. Inside the function, call nprogress.start. The start function is what will initialize the progress bar. It'll take care of slowly incrementing it. We don't need to configure the bar any further. It works out of the box. After the start function, call the next function so that the router can begin loading the component. Once the router is finished loading everything, we'll want to stop the progress bar and remove it. We can do that by using the after each guard. Normally we would create a function, but we can simply pass in the nProgress.done function. The after each guard will call whatever function we pass into it. We're directly passing in the done function. There isn't anything else we need to do. So it's perfectly fine if the router calls this function for us. The done function will force the progress bar to fill up the page. It'll then fade away. You'll notice I'm not invoking the function. If I were to invoke the function would get called immediately. We only want it to be called when the after each guard runs. The Vue router will invoke the function at the appropriate time. Unlike the other guards, the after each guard isn't provided a next function to call. The route will change regardless of what we do in this function. That's perfectly fine since we're trying to animate a progress bar and nothing else. Let's try testing our new feature. Refresh the page in your browser. Then try navigating to different places in your app. The progress bar loads before every route change. It goes away after the route change is complete. This is the exact behavior we were going for. It appears briefly because we're testing this on a local connection. I recommend testing this out with the throttle on. That'll give you a better feel for how this will behave in a real environment. In the next lecture, we'll continue with optimizing our app.